Our creation story, and when I say our, I'm talking about the Hadeshanownee, what the group of people, of nations that some people refer to as the Iroquois Confederacy, and that's a whole other story, how that formed. This story can take as long as 10 days to tell, 3 days to 10 days, depending on the person that's telling the story. And it starts in a place that we refer to as Sky World. And Sky World was a place where there were beings who were in some ways like us and in some ways different. For instance, the beings in Sky World had powers to do things like move this table without touching it. They could just think about it and make it move. They had those kinds of powers. And in Sky World, there was a tree that we refer to as the tree of life. And on that one tree grew every kind of fruit that you can imagine on that one tree. And not only that, it had blossoms that glowed. And that's what lit up Sky World. And the beings in Sky World were instructed not to bother that tree at all, but it came to be that there was a woman that we refer to as Sky Woman who craved a tea made from the roots of the tree of life. And in the process of getting those roots to make that tea, because she felt as though she needed that tea to help the babies that were growing inside of her. She was pregnant. That tree fell over in the process of getting those roots, and it exposed a great big hole. And she thought, oh, I dreamt about this. I dreamt that there's another place underneath Sky World. And she was horrified, of course, that something bad happened to the tree, but she was also curious. This was her chance to see if her dream was true, if there was this other place underneath Sky World. And so she went and she looked, and she looked down in that hole that was created where the tree used to grow. And while she was looking and examining, she fell through that hole. And there are different versions that tell why that happened or how it happened. And she fell from Sky World. And down below there was no land, just water and creatures of the water. And some of those water birds flew up and caught her. They caught Sky Woman. And they couldn't bring her back up to the hole in the sky, so they lowered her to the water, and they called upon the turtle to catch her, so that they could place her on that turtle's back so she'd have a place to stand. So that's why we call this place Turtle Island, where we are today. And she was placed there, and because she was from Sky World, she had special powers, and so she was able to make that turtle grow. And the creatures helped bring dirt to her, soil to her, so she could plant the seeds that she brought from Sky World, from that tree of life. And so that's how we wound up with the plant life here. That's how she came to be here. That's how Turtle Island grew to be what it is today. And eventually she gave birth to a daughter. And that daughter, when she grew up, she gave birth to twin boys. And they went about creating everything else that we're familiar with in the natural world. And when they finished, everything that they created was in perfect balance. We need balance. We need day and night, hot and cold. We need predators and prey. We need that balance. And even within ourselves, we constantly are dealing with trying to find that balance within ourselves, the balance of positive and negative within ourselves. We struggle with that all the time. And so eventually the natural world as we know it was created, and then it was time to make the human beings, and the human beings were supposed to be the caretakers. They were supposed to maintain the balance. But as it turns out, we're the ones that cause the disbalance. We're still struggling with that. We're still struggling with that. And eventually those first human beings, those first 4 beings, were separated because they weren't getting along with each other. But it was known that at some point they would have the technology, the desire, and the ability to come back together. Just like we do today. We have the technology and the desire to travel all over Mother Earth. But we're still struggling. We're still struggling with seeing the beauty in one another and respecting one another and remembering that we're all connected, that we're all part of the natural world. We're still struggling with that, and that we have a responsibility to the natural world to maintain the balance.